The ship shuddered violently as it crashed onto the rocky surface of the alien planet. Fire and sparks flew from the engines, and the loud roar of the impact shook everyone inside. When the noise finally stopped, silence filled the air, heavy and strange. Smoke rose around the twisted metal of the ship. The crew and passengers slowly opened their eyes, coughing and blinking at the harsh sunlight that filtered through the thick clouds above. Leo, a young engineer, pushed himself up from the floor. His clothes were torn, and dust covered his face. But he quickly checked himself. The first thing he noticed was the alien land stretching around them. Jagged rocks rose from the ground like sharp teeth. The sky glowed with strange colors, a mix of faint purples and greens that shimmered softly. Leo felt his chest tighten. The world was beautiful, but it was unfamiliar and frightening. He turned to the others. There was Mira, a medic, leaning against a broken wall of the ship, trying to stop a small cut on her arm from bleeding. Beside her, Daniel and Sarah, two engineers like Leo, were shaking but alive. A few other survivors were sprawled on the ground, stunned and frightened. Panic began to rise among them. Some screamed, some cried, and some just sat frozen, staring at the alien sky. Leo took a deep breath. He knew fear was dangerous. It could freeze them or make them make mistakes. He raised his voice as loud as he could. Everyone, listen to me. We are hurt, yes, but we are alive. The first thing we must do is stay together. Panic will kill us faster than this planet ever could. Some heads turned toward him, eyes wide, searching for hope. Slowly, the panic began to calm. People began to move, helping each other stand. Mira checked everyone's injuries and distributed clean cloths from the emergency supplies. Leo moved among the survivors, examining the wreckage for anything useful. Broken panels, wires, and tools could all be turned into weapons, shelters, or sources of fire. The humans had survived space travel, the crash, and now they would survive this alien world. But the planet was not quiet. Strange winds blew, carrying sounds that made the survivors' hearts beat faster. A soft screech echoed from somewhere in the distance. Leo paused, listening carefully. "Stay close," he said calmly. "We do not know what is out there yet. Nothing will hurt us if we stick together." The survivors began to form a small circle, keeping their eyes on the jagged horizon. The air smelled metallic, like the ship's engines mixed with something unknown from the planet. Leo took a deep breath and looked at the sky. It was not the familiar blue of Earth, nor the soft colors of their last planets. It seemed alive, shifting slowly with currents of light and color. The clouds seemed to whisper. Though Leo knew it was only the wind, still, he felt a shiver. Mira came to his side, her eyes full of worry. "Leo, we need shelter. The sun is strong here, and the nights may be worse." She pointed to a cluster of rocks nearby that looked like they could offer some protection. Leo nodded. "Yes, we move there. Slowly, carefully. We will not run. We will go as a group." Together, the survivors made their way to the rocks. Each step was cautious, each sound making them tense. Small stones shifted under their feet, and the wind carried faint rustling noises. Every shadow seemed alive, but Leo kept them focused. He reminded them to keep calm, to watch for danger, but also to look for what could help them survive. As they reached the rocks, the sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the land. Leo surveyed the area. It was not perfect, but it was safe for now. They could rest here, build a small shelter, and plan their next move. The survivors sat on the hard ground, exhausted but relieved to have a moment of safety. At that moment, Leo realized the truth. This planet was alive, strange, and dangerous. They were far from Earth, far from comfort and friends, and yet they were still alive, for the first time since the crash. A tear escaped his eye, not of sadness, but of relief and fear mixed together. Humanity had arrived on a new world, and their fight for survival had just begun. The group huddled together as night approached. Leo kept watch, alert for any movement in the shadows. Every sound, every flicker of light seemed amplified in the darkness. The survivors whispered among themselves, sharing stories, fears, and hopes. They were scared, yes, but they were learning something important. Survival depended on courage, teamwork, and the willingness to face the unknown. And so, under the strange glow of the alien sky, humanity's first tiers of survival fell. They were afraid, but they were alive, and for the first time, the harsh beauty of this alien world seemed a little less frightening. The night on the alien planet was darker than any the survivors had known. The sky glowed faintly with shifting colors, but the light was weak and scattered. Shadows moved across the jagged rocks, and every gust of wind carried strange, eerie sounds. The survivors huddled close together near the rocky shelter Leo had chosen. Their bodies tense, their eyes wide with worry, Leo walked among them, checking on each person. "Stay calm," he said softly. "Tonight, we rest. Tomorrow, we will explore and find food and water. But for now, we stay together." Mira nodded, her hands busy wrapping small cuts and bruises. She had grown calmer since the crash, but the strange noises of the night made her shiver. Daniel and Sarah sat nearby, whispering quietly as they tried to ignore the flickers of movement in the distance. Even small rocks shifting in the wind seemed dangerous. Then, a sound broke the quiet. A soft rustling, followed by a high-pitched squeak, came from the shadows beyond the shelter. The survivors froze. The wind carried the sound closer. Leo motioned for everyone to stay still. He held a piece of broken metal in his hand, ready to defend the group. The rustling grew louder. Small creatures emerged from the shadows. They had dark, shiny bodies and many legs that moved quickly across the rocks. Their eyes glowed faintly in the alien light. They were not large, but their speed and numbers made them frightening. The creatures circled the humans, sniffing and testing them. Leo stood slowly. "Everyone, stay calm. Do not run. We will scare them away if we act together." He struck the ground with the metal, making a loud noise. The creatures hissed and moved back slightly. Mira grabbed a torch from the wreckage, lighting it to create a wall of firelight. The creatures paused, unsure of the humans' intentions. One of the smaller survivors, a boy named Tom, whimpered. "They will get us," he said, his voice shaking. Leo knelt beside him. "No, Tom, they are testing us. They do not want to fight. If they can avoid it, watch carefully, stay close to us, and we will be safe." The creatures moved closer again, circling, their legs clicking on the rocks. Leo noticed how they reacted to sound and light. He signaled to Daniel and Sarah to bang metal pieces together. The noise startled the creatures, causing them to hiss and retreat slightly. Mira held the torch higher, creating a circle of light. Slowly, the creatures began to back away, disappearing into the darkness. For a moment, the survivors held their breath. The night was silent again, except for the wind. Relief spread among them. They had faced their first real threat on the planet and survived. Leo smiled faintly, though his body remained tense. "See, you survived. You all survived. This planet is dangerous, yes, but we are stronger than we realize." The group returned to the rocky shelter, sitting closer together. The adrenaline of the encounter left them exhausted, but they felt a small spark of pride. They had learned that fear could be controlled with courage and cooperation. Mira offered water and small pieces of food. Those supplies were limited. Leo looked toward the distant horizon. Even in the darkness, strange movements could be seen. Shadows that did not belong to rocks or clouds. He knew this was only the beginning. The planet held many dangers, and tonight had been a warning. Every sound, every flicker of light could be a threat. But he also knew that humanity had something these creatures did not: intelligence, teamwork, and determination. As the night deepened, Leo sat on a rock, thinking. They had survived the crash, the confusion, and now the first attack. They were learning the rules of this alien world slowly but surely. Tomorrow, they would begin exploring, finding food, water, and safer shelter. Each step forward would be a victory, and each challenge would make them stronger. The survivors tried to rest, but sleep was light. Every shadow, every whisper of wind caused them to wake, yet they did not scream or run. They had faced their first threat and understood what it meant to fight together. Fear was still present, but it no longer controlled them. At dawn, a soft glow spread across the jagged rocks. The survivors looked around, noticing small details they had missed in the darkness. Strange plants that moved slightly in the wind, rocks that shimmered faintly, and the distant outline of hills that might hold food or water. Leo stood, helping the others up. We are alive. That is what matters. Now, we move forward, together. We will find a way to survive. Mira smiled, though tired. I never thought I would feel safe on this planet, but we survived. That is enough for now. Leo nodded. Enough for now. But remember, we must always be ready. This planet tests us, and we must learn from it. Each danger is a lesson. Each fear we face makes us stronger. The survivors gathered their few belongings, preparing for the first steps of exploration. Their hearts were still heavy with fear, but also lightened with hope. The creatures had not defeated them. The night had been terrifying, but humanity had endured, and that was the beginning of their true fight for survival. The morning sun spread pale light across the jagged rocks of the alien planet. The survivors had slept lightly, their minds alert to every sound. Leo gathered the group near the rocky shelter, his face calm but serious. Today, we explore, he said. We need food, water, and a safer place to stay. We must learn the land if we want to survive. The group followed Leo cautiously, moving over sharp stones and through narrow paths between towering rock formations. Mira walked beside him, carrying the small medical kit and watching the others carefully. Daniel and Sarah carried makeshift tools and weapons they had assembled from the wreckage. Even little Tom held a sharpened piece of metal, determined to help Dot as they moved. They began to notice the strange life forms of the planet. Small plants glowed faintly in the sunlight, their colors shifting from green to purple as if the wind touched them with magic. Some of the plants had soft leaves that reacted to touch, curling gently when brushed. Others had thorny stems and released tiny sparks of light when disturbed. The survivors learned quickly to observe before touching anything. This one is safe, Leo said, pointing to a small bush with round, blue fruit. It looks strange, but it does not react aggressively. Let's take some for later. He carefully picked a few fruits and passed them to Mira, who inspected them and nodded. They seem edible. Not much taste, but they will give us energy. The group continued walking, crossing a river that glowed faintly under the alien sun. The water shimmered with tiny floating particles that reflected light like stars. Leo tested the water first. He dipped a small container in, checking for anything harmful. Satisfied, he motioned for the others to drink carefully. Even Tom hesitated. But after seeing Leo drink, he followed Dot as they moved deeper into the terrain. They noticed strange movements in the distance. Small creatures with multiple legs ran across the rocks, disappearing into shadows as quickly as they appeared. The survivors kept a safe distance. Watching silently, they learned that some creatures were harmless, others aggressive. Observation became a skill they could not ignore. At one point, Leo led the group to a large cliff that overlooked a valley filled with colorful plants. He pointed to a group of trees with thick, silver leaves. We can find shelter there. The plants might protect us from the wind and predators. But first, we must understand the valley. See how the wind moves, listen to the sounds, everything. Here tells a story. We need to pay attention. The survivors spread out slightly, exploring carefully. Mira found a plant with soft, green vines that seemed to respond to touch. She gently lifted one, and a small droplet of liquid formed on it. This could help with wounds, she said. Leo nodded. We take what helps us, but we respect the land. Every step must be careful. Suddenly, a loud screech echoed through the valley. The survivors froze. Shadows moved quickly across the distant hills. Leo held up a hand. Do not panic. This planet is alive. These sounds mean something. Watch and learn. We do not need to fight everything, but we must understand it. The group huddled together, observing the movement. The creatures were large and fierce-looking, but they did not approach. Instead, they seemed to follow patterns. Moving in circles around the valley, Leo studied them carefully. They are territorial. If we respect their space, they will not harm us. This is another lesson. We must always watch, always learn. By midday, the survivors had found a small area with natural shelter between rocks and plants. It was safer from the wind and hidden from most creatures. Leo helped build a temporary camp using branches and stones to create barriers. Mira tended to small injuries, and Daniel and Sarah gathered edible plants. Even Tom helped, learning quickly from the adults. As the day passed, the survivors began to feel a small sense of confidence. They had learned which plants were safe, how to find water, and how to avoid dangerous creatures. Leo watched them carefully, proud of their progress. Every day we stay alive, we grow stronger. This planet is difficult, but it teaches us. We must listen, observe, and act together. That is how we survive. By evening, the group sat around a small fire Leo had built using dry plants and sparks from their metal tools. The air was cooler and the shadows longer. The sounds of creatures echoed from the distance. But the survivors felt ready. They had learned the land, even a little, and they knew that knowledge was their strongest weapon. Mira handed out small portions of fruit and water. It is not much, but it is enough, she said. Tom smiled, biting into a fruit carefully. The glow of the alien sky reflected in their eyes. Even in fear, there was hope. They had faced the unknown and had survived, learning how to move through. Leo looked around at the group, their faces tired but determined. Tomorrow will bring new challenges, he said. But today, we learned. Today, we discovered how to live here. Each step forward is a victory. We are stronger than we were yesterday. And that is how humanity survives. The survivors watched the sunset, casting strange colors across the valley. They had faced the unknown and had begun to understand it. Fear remained, but knowledge gave them power. They had survived their first full day of exploration. In their hearts held the promise of hope, courage, and the determination to continue. The survivors woke to a harsh wind that swept across the rocky valley. The sky was darker than usual, clouds thick and swirling with greenish light. Leo sensed danger immediately. Stay together, he called, his voice firm. The weather is changing. We must protect ourselves. Mira helped the others gather their belongings. Even small Tom moved carefully, learning to follow instructions without hesitation. Daniel and Sarah checked the barriers they had built round the camp. The wind was strong, carrying dust, small stones, and the faint, sharp scent of alien plants. As they prepared to move, the storm hit. Rain fell in sheets of acidic droplets, sizzling as it hit the rocky ground. The wind tore at their temporary shelters, breaking branches and throwing debris into the air. The survivors huddled together, shielding themselves with scraps of metal and cloth. Leo barked instructions, guiding them to safer spots among the rocks. Suddenly, a loud crack echoed through the valley. A large rock had fallen, separating Mira from the group. She shouted, but the wind carried her voice away. Leo and the others rushed to reach her, but the storm was too strong. Rocks slid beneath their feet, and visibility was near zero. Mira, Leo shouted, pushing against the wind, but she had vanished behind a tall formation of jagged stone. Panic rose in the group. Tom clung to Leo, trembling. She's gone, he whispered. Eyes wide with fear, Leo's heart sank, but he kept his voice steady. We cannot lose control. She is out there. We will find her. But first, we must survive the storm. Stick together. Hours passed. The storm raged without mercy. The survivors used every skill they had learned. They huddled in protected spots, listened to the sounds around them, and avoided dangerous areas where rocks might fall. Every step was calculated, every movement careful. The storm tested their endurance, their courage, and their unity. When the wind finally began to ease, the survivors emerged from their shelter. The valley was damaged, trees were broken, rocks shifted, and small pools of water had formed in strange places. Leo scanned the area, searching for Mira. There was no sign of her. A heavy silence fell over the group. Tom began to cry softly. She's gone, he whispered, his small shoulders shaking. Other survivors lowered their heads, unable to speak. Leo felt a tear run down his face, but he blinked it away. Grief was heavy, but survival was more urgent. He knelt beside Tom and placed a hand on his shoulder. "We will find her if she is alive, but we cannot give up. We must stay together, keep moving, and be strong. Mira would want us to survive. That is what matters now." The group moved carefully through the storm-damaged valley, searching for clues. They found footprints in soft soil near a fallen rock, but they were too small to follow for long. The alien landscape was unpredictable, and time was not on their side. Night approached, and the survivors realized they needed shelter before darkness fell. Leo spotted a cave, partially hidden behind a cluster of rocks. It was not large, but it offered protection from wind and predators. He led the group inside, helping Tom and the others climb carefully. The cave was dark, but safe. They settled in, exhausted from the storm and their search. Mira's absence hung heavily over them. The survivors shared quiet moments of grief, holding each other and comforting Tom. Leo spoke softly. "Loss is part of survival. We cannot stop it from hurting, but we can honor those we care for by continuing, by learning, by living." The survivors listened, understanding the weight of his words. They had faced fear before, but this was different. This was personal. The first tear of real loss had touched them, yet they had also discovered something powerful, even in sadness. They could remain determined. As night fell, the cave offered a small measure of safety. The sounds of the alien world outside were constant, but inside, the group found a fragile peace. Leo kept watch, his eyes scanning the dark, listening for any movement. He thought of Mira and hoped she had found safety. Somewhere, the survivors shared small portions of food and water, conserving their supplies. They spoke quietly, sharing memories of Mira and discussing what they had learned from the storm. Each lesson made them stronger, more prepared for the dangers ahead. Finally, exhaustion overcame grief. The group rested as best they could, huddled together in the cave. The wind had calmed, but the memory of the storm remained. Each survivor felt the weight of loss, but also a spark of determination. Humanity had faced fear and pain, yet they endured. Leo gazed at the dark sky outside the cave. He understood the truth. Survival was not only about facing external threats. It was also about facing loss, sadness, and fear within. And if they could endure this, they could endure anything. The first tier of loss had fallen, but it had not broken them. The survivors were ready to continue, stronger and wiser than before, carrying hope and courage into the challenges of the alien world. The morning air was crisp and still, a quiet contrast to the storm from the night before. Leo gathered the survivors near the entrance of the cave. "We cannot wait," he said. "Mira may be out there. We must explore and find resources. We need to know this land better if we want to survive." Tom clung to Leo's side, nervous but determined. Daniel and Sarah checked their tools, ensuring that weapons and containers were ready. The survivors moved carefully, their steps light, eyes scanning the strange, glowing plants and jagged rocks. Every sound made them alert, but they moved with more confidence than before. As they followed a narrow path through a valley, they noticed something unusual. A creature, taller than any they had seen before, emerged from behind a large boulder. It had smooth, green skin that shimmered in the sunlight. Its eyes were large and round, intelligent and curious, not aggressive. The creature stood still, observing them with careful attention. Leo held up a hand to stop the group. "Do not move too fast," he whispered. "Watch, learn. We do not know if it is friendly or dangerous." The creature took a slow step forward, tilting its head as if studying the humans. It made a soft sound, almost musical. Tom gasped quietly. It's not attacking us," he said. Leo nodded. "No, but we must be careful. Approach slowly, and do not make sudden movements." He stepped forward and extended a hand, palm open, showing that he meant no harm. The creature tilted its head again and made another soft sound. It then stepped closer, allowing Leo to touch its arm lightly. The skin was smooth and cool, not threatening. Encouraged, Mira joined Leo, offering food from their supplies. The creature sniffed the offering and then took it gently, showing a surprising intelligence. Over the next hour, the survivors learned that it understood gestures. When Leo pointed to water, it led them to a small stream hidden behind rocks. The humans drank carefully. Amazed at the creature's guidance, the alien being showed them edible plants, some they had not noticed before. Mira tasted one and nodded. "This is safe and nutritious," she said. Daniel and Sarah gathered a small supply. Even Tom picked a few under Leo's supervision. By midday, the survivors realized that this creature could help them survive. They began to communicate using gestures and simple sounds. The creature responded quickly, guiding them to areas that were safer and richer in resources. Leo watched carefully, noting every detail. Humanity had survived many dangers through intelligence and adaptation, and now an unexpected ally had appeared. As they moved through the valley, they encountered small predators, but the creature warned them with a low, vibrating sound. Leo and the group stayed alert and avoided the animals. They realized that on this planet, knowledge and cooperation were more important than strength alone. The ally had given them a chance to learn faster, to avoid mistakes that could cost lives. The survivors found a new area suitable for shelter. A natural hollow in a cliff offered protection from wind and predators. With the creature's help, they built temporary barriers and stored water and food. Even Tom helped, placing stones carefully while the alien guided him. The group felt a sense of hope they had not known since the crash. As the sun began to set, the sky painted with soft colors, Leo gathered the survivors. "This planet is dangerous, but not everything here is against us," he said. "We have learned to survive alone, and now we have learned to cooperate. Knowledge and observation are our greatest strengths, and sometimes help comes from the most unexpected places." The creature stayed near them, calm and watchful. Its presence comforted the group, reminding them that survival did not mean facing the unknown alone. Mira tended small injuries and shared water and food. Daniel and Sarah reinforced the barriers, while Tom sat quietly, watching the alien with fascination. Night fell, and the group settled into their new shelter. The sounds of the planet were all around them, but the aliens' presence made them feel safer. They understood that danger remained, but they also realized that intelligence, courage, and cooperation could turn fear into strength. Leo looked at the stars through the gaps in the cliff. He thought of Mira, hoping she was safe somewhere. He thought of the storm and the creatures, and now of the new ally. Humanity had survived each challenge so far, and every lesson they learned made them stronger. The survivors had lost much, but they had gained hope, understanding, and a new way to navigate the alien world. By morning, they would continue exploring, using the lessons of the day and the guidance of their strange ally. The survivors' hearts were lighter, yet their resolve was stronger. They had learned a vital truth. Survival depended not only on courage and strength, but also on curiosity, observation, and the ability to form bonds even with beings unlike themselves. In the alien valley, humanity took its first steps toward thriving, not just surviving. They had faced fear, learned from it, and discovered that sometimes the unknown could be an ally. The first glimmer of trust and hope had appeared, and with it, a new chapter of survival began. The sun rose slowly over the jagged horizon, painting the alien sky with pale colors. The survivors stirred, ready to face another day on the strange planet. Leo gathered the group near their cliff shelter. "Today, we must prepare," he said. "We have learned much, but this planet still holds dangers larger than we have faced." Tom rubbed his eyes but nodded. He had grown stronger since the crash, learning from every lesson. Mira checked the group's supplies and injuries. Daniel and Sarah adjusted tools and weapons, ensuring everything was ready. Even small preparations brought a sense of control and confidence to the group. As they moved from the shelter, a shadow passed over them. A large shape soared high above the valley, its massive wings stretching across the sky. The survivors froze. Leo's heart raced. They had seen many creatures, but nothing this large. The shadow descended slowly, revealing a predator the size of their crashed ship. Its body was armored, and its eyes glowed with a fierce, calculating intelligence. Leo raised his hand, signaling everyone to stop. "Do not panic," he whispered. "We will survive if we work together. Stay calm and follow my instructions." The creature landed at a distance, its heavy steps shaking the ground. Its gaze swept over the humans, testing them. The survivors held their ground, remembering the lessons from their strange ally. Observation and patience were key. The predator did not attack immediately, but the fear it inspired was greater than anything they had felt before. Leo quickly devised a plan. Using the knowledge they had gained from the land, he led the group to create a series of traps and barriers. Rocks were stacked carefully, thorny plants were positioned to deter movement, and broken metal from the ship was arranged to create noise and distraction if the predator approached. Mira gathered water in small containers, preparing to use it if the creature tried to rush them. As the predator tested their defenses, the alien ally appeared silently. It watched the humans with calm, intelligent eyes. Leo nodded in understanding. They would face this together. The ally helped guide the group, signaling movements and warning of danger. Every instruction was vital. Every decision mattered. The predator roared, a deep sound that echoed across the valley. The survivors held their ground, hearts pounding. They had learned to face fear, but now it was more intense. The massive creature tested their courage and determination. Leo stepped forward, waving metal pieces to create noise and confuse it. The predator hesitated, studying them, using signals from the alien ally. Leo led the group to move strategically. Each trap they had set was tested, and the predator reacted predictably, showing that the humans had learned its behavior. They used the terrain to their advantage, moving behind rocks and using shadows to hide. Even Tom contributed, carrying small stones to distract the creature when instructed. Hours passed as the predator circled and tested them. The survivors remained vigilant, using every lesson learned from the land in their encounters with smaller creatures. Sweat and dust covered their faces, but they did not give in to fear. They had been trained by experience to respond with intelligence and cooperation. Finally, as the sun reached its highest point, the predator retreated. It moved back into the distant hills, observing the humans but not attacking. The survivors released a collective breath, relief washing over them. They had survived the first encounter with a massive threat. Fear remained, but it was now tempered with confidence and understanding. Leo gathered the group. "We faced the largest predator yet," he said. "It tested our courage, our knowledge, and our unity. Today, we survived because we worked together and used what we have learned. Fear is natural, but it will not control us." The group nodded, exhausted but proud. Mira tended to minor injuries and distributed water. Daniel and Sarah inspected traps and barriers, readying them for future threats. Even Tom smiled faintly, understanding that courage was not the absence of fear, but the strength to act despite it. As evening approached, the survivors returned to their cliff shelter. The sky glowed with colors that shifted softly in the fading light. The alien valley seemed less threatening now, though danger was still present. Leo looked over the group, their faces tired but determined. He knew the planet would continue to test them, but they had learned a vital lesson: preparation, teamwork, and observation could turn fear into survival. That night, as the group huddled together, the alien ally stayed close. Its presence was a reminder that understanding and cooperation could provide strength. The survivors had faced the ultimate test of courage so far, and they had endured. Each heartbeat was proof that humanity's will to survive was stronger than the fear of the unknown. Leo gazed at the alien stars through the gaps in the cliff. He thought of Mira and the others, hoping she was safe. He thought of the predator, the storms, and the challenges they had overcome. Humanity had faced fear and learned from it, and in that knowledge, they found power, courage, and hope. The dawn of fear had passed, and with it came the realization that humanity could survive anything. As long as they stood together, the planet was still dangerous. But the survivors had grown stronger, wiser, and braver. They were ready for whatever lay ahead. The survivors awoke to a quiet morning. The jagged valley stretched before them, glowing faintly in soft sunlight after days of storms, strange creatures, and the tests of fear. They were stronger, wiser, and more united than ever, Leo gathered. The group neared their cliff shelter. Today, he said, we will face what comes together. We have learned, adapted, and survived. That is our strength. Tom looked around, his eyes bright despite the exhaustion. He had grown braver since the crash. Learning every lesson carefully, Mira checked the supplies, ensuring water and food. We're ready. Daniel and Sarah inspected their makeshift weapons, prepared to defend the group if needed. Even the alien ally moved calmly among them, watching and waiting. The sound of distant movement reached their ears. A shadow crossed the valley, and the survivors froze. It was the massive predator from before, larger and more determined than ever. It had returned, testing them once again. Its armored body gleamed in the sunlight, and its glowing eyes focused on the humans. Fear rose instantly, but the survivors did not panic. They had learned how to respond. Leo signaled the group to prepare. Stay calm, stay together, use what we have learned. Fear will not defeat us. The predator moved closer, its heavy steps shaking the ground. The survivors worked as one. They set traps, moved strategically, and used the terrain to their advantage. The alien ally guided them, signaling movements and warning of danger. Every action was precise. Every decision deliberate. As the predator approached, the survivors launched their plan. Stones were rolled to block paths, thorns were placed to slow its movement, and metal sheets were arranged to create noise and distraction. The predator hesitated, surprised by the humans' intelligence and coordination. It tried to test them, but every move was countered. Tom held a small spear, ready to distract the creature if necessary. Mira carried water, prepared to throw it, to confuse or slow the predator. Daniel and Sarah moved quickly, helping adjust traps and barriers. Leo directed the actions, calm and focused. The predator roared, but the humans did not falter. Their courage was stronger than their fear. Ours passed as the massive predator tested their defenses. The survivors worked tirelessly, using every lesson from storms, smaller creatures, and the alien land itself. Sweat and dust covered their faces, but they moved with determination. Every trap and maneuver showed the predator that humans were clever, resourceful, and united. Finally, the predator retreated. It circled once more, observing the group, and then disappeared into the distant hills. Relief swept over the survivors. They had faced the ultimate challenge and emerged victorious. Tears of exhaustion, relief, and triumph fell freely on their faces. Humanity had endured its first great test on this alien world. Leo gathered the group. We did it, he said softly. We survived, not because we are the strongest, but because we are brave, united, and smart. Every fear we faced taught us something. Every challenge made us stronger. Today, we have proven that humanity can survive anywhere. Mira smiled, offering water and food. Tom hugged Leo tightly, pride shining in his young eyes. Daniel and Sarah nodded, feeling the weight of their accomplishment. Even the alien allies stayed close, a silent witness to humanity's triumph. The survivors looked out over the alien valley, exhausted but alive. The jagged rocks, glowing plants, and distant shadows no longer seemed entirely threatening. They had learned the land, adapted to its dangers, and faced fear together. The planet was still dangerous, but the humans had proven they could endure and even thrive with courage and teamwork. As the sun rose higher, Leo spoke again. We have lost, we have feared, and we have cried, but we have also learned, adapted, and survived. That is the true strength of humanity. We will face more challenges, but now we know we can overcome them together. The survivors gathered their few belongings, ready to continue exploring. They moved carefully, using the lessons they had learned about the land and its creatures. The alien ally led them toward a distant hill, where water flowed and shelter might be found. Each step was deliberate, each movement a testament to their endurance. By midday, the survivors had reached a small plateau overlooking the valley. They rested, drinking water and eating what they had gathered. Leo looked around at their faces, tired, dirt-streaked, but filled with pride and determination. Humanity had survived its first days on this alien world. They had faced storms, predators, loss, and fear, and they had not only survived but had learned to thrive. Tears fell again, but these were different. They were tears of relief, courage, and hope. Humanity had proven its strength and resilience. The survivors had endured, and they knew that whatever challenges awaited, they could meet them. As the sun set, casting soft colors over the jagged valley, Leo looked at the group and the alien ally. They were ready for the future. They were alive, and for the first time, humanity's spirit shone brighter than fear. The first tears of survival had been shed, marking not an end, but the beginning of a new life on this alien world. They had survived, they had learned, they had grown, and together they would face anything the planet could throw at them.